Hi, welcome to Polyphonic Press. I'm Jeremy Boyd.
I'm John Van Dyke.
And today we're going to be talking about disappearing music. Here we go. Alright, so as technology progresses, you probably notice that music streaming services and things like that become more prevalent in our culture. But what you might not be aware of is a lot of older recordings are starting to basically literally disappear.
Deteriorate, certainly,
yeah. So what's happening is they have a lot of older recordings, like a lot of old blues artists like Leadbelly and Robert Johnson.
More than just that, I'm sure there's classical, there's anything that existed.
Yeah. So what's happening is these recordings are getting to the point where they're not even able to be played, and just because of deterioration over time, the way that they were physically made makes it almost really hard to even transfer it over to a digital format. So what's happening is we're losing, they're just gone. These recordings, this is the only copy of them, and they're just gone. And so with each new technology, less and less of what shaped certainly American culture is just disappearing over the last 100 years, the 20th century anyway. So it's kind of sad that this is happening, and it's really interesting what they actually do to get it transferred over. I didn't know that what record companies do, they actually take 30 seconds of a song and they splice a tape together. And so if you have magnetic tape that's put together with adhesive tape, obviously there's a more chance that that's going to break over time. So this is kind of sad in a way, and it's something that I knew that this happened to tape, certainly, because that's what we learned about in college, that this will happen to tape over time. But it's never really something that I actually thought of, that all these old recordings are really disappearing, literally, and it's really kind of sad.
I was sort of aware of that on a certain basis, and it was partly because of my own great-grandpa's old recordings, which were recorded onto, it was like a 78 RPM disc, but it was a metal disc with a layer of like celluloid, really thin, brittle stuff. I think it was celluloid. Anyway, some sort of early petroleum product. And it's and yeah, you look at some of them are usable, some of them are not quite usable, and other ones are really starting to deteriorate. And it's tragic, is what it is.
Yeah.
Also, I remember seeing one guy, and he was even talking. It was on a TV show, and he's holding a wax cylinder, and he's talking about the rarity of the recording, and he's talking about the recording process, and the fact that it was an old wax cylinder, and it's probably the only one, and then it just breaks apart in his hands.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. Yeah.
On TV, it was tragic, funny, but you just lost a piece of history, right?
Yeah, right in front of his eyes, really. Yeah. What I do know is what they can do. I don't know how far this goes back, but we can do is with 2-inch tape, certainly. If it's starting to deteriorate, you can if you put it on the tape machine and it sort of does that winding down sound that tape does,
warbling.
Yeah. You can bake it in an oven, and that remagnetizes the tape a little bit so that you can quickly get it onto digital and save it. But even that is kind of a risky thing to do, because you don't know how far the tape is gone, and even if baking it is going to really do anything. So it is interesting that this is happening, that with each new technology that there's just stuff that can't be transferred. Even stuff that's 30 years old is probably the stuff that wasn't quite as popular or hasn't really been popular through the ages, I don't think people are less inclined to get around to it because they want to get the popular stuff first because that's what's going to sell. And
it's some, you could make the argument that, well, it's the stuff that's sort of left behind because it was like so a lot of people could make the argument that it doesn't matter, but it does.
Yeah.
Because there's somebody out there who cares.
Yeah.
And this stuff shouldn't be left to just fall into disarray because you don't know. Sometimes something that's so insignificant actually influence somebody who wasn't as insignificant. And even if it didn't, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
These are old recordings. These meant something to somebody, and the fact that so many of them are being left to just, turn into dust, quite literally, is sort of a travesty. I know people are trying their best, but...
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is the Library of Congress is saying that they can't make these recordings available because, there's no one, they don't know who owns the copyright on them. But the thing is, they're still trying to preserve them because at least that way they'll have them.
Yeah.
And so, they don't... There's not the motivation to get them preserved, but what I say, at least they'll have them. At least they'll have the be able to save them in case they need them, and get them onto a hard drive and get them stored away. Just because the legal system eventually will allow them to be released. Eventually, because they will at some point become public domain.
Exactly.
But anyway, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Were you aware of this, or were you sort of something you hadn't really considered? Like, I never really thought much about it. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Be sure to subscribe so you know when we post new videos. I'm gonna be coming back with the reviews next week. I know I've been lacking in them quite a bit, but I'm gonna be coming back next week. I got a new backdrop on order that's gonna be really cool, so look forward to that. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Follow John on Twitter at Funky Dutch, and you can check out our website, polyphonicpress.com. All those links are in the description, and that's about it. I'm Jeremy Boyd.
I'm John Van Dyke.
Take it easy.